Hello again, my name is David Kegg, concept artist and illustrator, and welcome back to the final module of our character design series, creating a character turnaround sheet. Let's jump in. In our last session, we finalized our character design concept. Today we'll be walking through our final step, the process of creating a turnaround sheet ready to pass along to a 3D modeler. This turnaround sheet is an important starting point for a character model to begin to translate the 2D character concept into a 3D object. We will cover how to translate our concept 180 degrees to a reverse view, and by the time we're done, we will have a complete character folio ready for production. Firstly, there are generally two ways of creating a reference sheet for a 3D modeling pipeline. The type shown here on the left is a turnaround sheet, which shows the back of the character design by virtually rotating the final character concept in 3D space to show the reverse side. This might also include showing detail shots of specific items or elements that might not be as clear in the concept drawing. In my experience, this style of reference sheet seems to be the industry standard nowadays, and it's the style of reference sheet that we'll be covering in this video. The second type of sheet on the right is called an orthographic sheet, or an ortho. This is where you translate your final character design into a series of isometric drawings of various angles of the character, standing in a simple A pose with the character's arms about 45 degrees from their body. This is becoming more and more a dated approach, and in my experience is not as commonly used as the turnaround method. So as we develop our turnaround sheet, there are three essential elements to keep in mind. Obviously, we will need our final front view concept image, as well as a reverse view showing the back of the design, and any call-out elements such as pieces of armor or specific decals on the clothing. In some cases, you may also need a side view depending on the design. Creating a reverse view from your character concept might sound intimidating. Having to redraw the exact same character, but from 180 degrees behind them, might sound like a lot of work. But notice in this example how the character has roughly the same silhouette in both views, only in the back view, the silhouette has been flipped horizontally. This gives us a bit of a cheat on how to keep our reverse drawing faithful to our original front design. We'll go ahead and break that process down a little bit more in a few minutes. This sheet also includes callouts, or specific details or costume elements that need some extra attention or that aren't as clearly defined by the initial front or back views. This could be almost anything related to the character design, including costume elements, weapon details, objects held or carried, specific symbols or insignias, material textures, reference images, or even facial features. For our hero, I will be creating callouts for his shoulder pad and armor elements, as they are a bit turned away from the viewer in both the front and back views. I will also clarify his clan insignia, which will be an important symbol used both in his tunic design as well as on his clan ring. So how do we go about rotating our character concept so that we can create the reverse side of the design? Here we have a rough sketch of the front and back of the character design. Notice that when we rotate the character, his reverse view silhouette is almost identical to the front view, only it's been flipped horizontally, and there are some small adjustments that have been made to his feet to reflect their proper position relative to the camera. Remember, unlike the orthographic method, which removes any kind of depth or perspective from our character drawing, the turnaround sheet maintains a consistent viewpoint in 3D space. Here we have our front concept for our dwarf hero, standing on a floor plane within a perspective grid, showing the space around him. Notice that his feet are at different distances from the viewer, and that his left foot falls back in space. The placement of the feet will be one of the only elements that will change as we rotate our character. So now we have rotated the character in 3D space. He is in the same pose, and his feet are still firmly planted on the ground plane. You'll notice that now that we are on the opposite side of the character, his left foot is now closer to us in space. Though we will have to adjust the foot placement slightly, flipping the silhouette will be our first step when we begin to draw the back view of our turnaround sheet. It will give us the general framework from which we can start filling in our internal details as we figure out the reverse side of this design.